All right, recording is starting now. Ready to go.
Great. Great. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's session on Social Media 101. If we haven't met before, I'm Ken Starr from North America Learning and Development, and I'd like to welcome you to day one of the Never Stop Learning Festival. You may remember that last year we had Never Stop Learning Week, and it was very successful, and we've expanded it to Never Stop Learning Festival this year, running over the next 2 weeks. And one of the successes of last year's week were the roundtable sessions. And I know some of you were with us at the just completed roundtable session. But we want to take things a step further this year, and we've expanded beyond just having roundtables. We've got a number of different training programs, and in fact, I'm going to leave this session when it's over and lead a training program today. But we also have different speakers. We've got one on diversity and inclusion. We've got another on emotional well-being. We've got a couple of days devoted to self-paced learning. And we have some internal presentations, including today's session on social media. So why are we doing a session on social media, and why are we doing it on day one? Well, number one, we want to encourage you to post throughout the festival. Post about a session that you sit in on, a roundtable, maybe a local learning activity. So we want to encourage you to post throughout the festival. In addition, we don't want to limit the postings to just the 2 weeks of the festival, but we want to encourage our employees to utilize social media so that you can post throughout the year. And finally, we're going to devote a portion of this session, because as we call this Never Stop Learning Festival, we want to help you to develop your LinkedIn profiles. So I can think of no two people better to take us through this journey over the next hour, I should say, on social media than Kevin Beck and Andy Caruso from Power Technique North America. So Kevin and Andy, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to make this presentation, provide this workshop for us. And with that, Kevin, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Ken. I appreciate it, and what a great welcome. And as Ken mentioned, he had sent out the schedule earlier with the social media anatomy, kind of, why your voice matters, and some of the things we're going to talk about today. So we highly encourage that throughout the festival, you take a look at what you're doing. You take a look at, take some pictures or take some videos about what you're learning, and really try and promote that on social media, whether it's your LinkedIn profile, which will be the focus of today's topic, or other social media channels. Make sure you tag in Alice Kopko. And as Ken mentioned, I'm Kevin Beck, the Senior Digital Marketing Manager for PTNA, that's Power Technique North America. So I focus a lot on the web properties, paid digital display and search, and the digital strategy when it comes to our department. And then we've got Andy.
Hey everyone, my name is Andy Caruso. I am the Senior Social Media and Public Relations Specialist at Power Technique North America. My main focuses are, of course, social media and PR, but specifically creating an organic content calendar, paid social media strategies, as well as social media training. So we're both really excited to have you all here today so we could kick off Never Stop Learning Festival with a social media training.
Awesome. And just before we kick off, we did get an update from Clyde, our amazing IT guy, that everyone will automatically receive learning hours for participating in this session. So just want to remind you that throughout the learning week, as you participate, you'll be able to get awarded learning hours. Today, we will go through a few different topics, and we'll kind of go through a lot of them and give our own conjecture and give some of our own experiences. And then at the end, we'll have plenty of room for questions and things like that. If you want, you can feel free to put things into the chat. If we can catch them or if we can answer them while we're going through it, then we most certainly will. But why your voice matters. So what's really going on with consumer behavior, what's really going on out there in the digital world about why we should be posting on social, or why we should be elevating your own voice and your own stories on social, how to leverage your digital presence. So really, what makes sense to post? Why are we posting certain things? Why are we taking pictures of certain things? And kind of just determining, what is a really good content type to be posting. When we building our authority, what does that mean? How do we make sure that we're relevant for the marketplace or the audience we're talking to? Optimizing your LinkedIn profile. So how do you make sure that your profile is the best that it can be? And then some common mistakes to avoid. So some do's and some don'ts, which you may or may not already know. So to start off, we really like to talk about digitalization and why our voice matters. So why is it important to have a voice on social media? Why is it important that, one, Atlas Copco is a company and some of our sub brands or other brands are on there and promoting not only our products, but our people on social media? But why are we, as either employees or even in our own personal respects, why should we be on social media? Now, LinkedIn, and this, like I said, this is going to be kind of the focus for us today because it's the main business platform that not only we as a company, but as employees, we should be focusing on, has over 740 million active users. And that's just today. As the days go on and as the years go on, that number continues to increase. And as it expands into other countries, that also continues to increase the reach that we have and kind of what that means. So 4 times higher reach. What is reach? Reach is basically the number of people that you can touch with a post, the number of people that can see the content that you're promoting out there. And as we'll mention later on, when others are engaging with your content, that means your reach continues to grow, which means that more and more people can see the things that you're posting or talking about or the stories or articles that you're sharing. Now, when it comes to higher or 4.4 times higher organic impressions, when we talk about organic versus paid, organic is really what we put out there that is just from your own platform's capabilities, right? From your own platform's profile. So I, as Kevin Beck, when I wrote a post about how awesome today's learning session was for social media, I, tag in Atlas Copco and I do this and I do that, but that's my own organic post. Now, as a platform, sometimes with our company, we have organic posts like that, but we also have the opportunity to do paid posts. Right now, we're really talking about a lot of the organic stuff that has to do with our own personal touch points. So now let's take a look at the Atlas Copco side of it, right? And let's take a look at some of the users that we see. We saw 740 million users worldwide. But in the United States, we have around 171 million and about 17 million users in Canada. When we look at the industries there, some of the top ones that we see, and this is kind of a reoccurring theme, and over the last decade, it certainly has changed. But as you can notice, in particular with a lot of our own brands, we have construction as number 3. That's us. We have information and technology services, which are also some of the Atlas Copco brands and also some of the Atlas Copco services. And we have hospital and healthcare. Again, when you look at Beacon Medeiros and some of our brands like that, we fit into that category as well. So these top 3 industries and these top 3 categories really resonate with us here at Atlas Copco. When it comes to our follower base, now a follower base is really all of the people who are basically tracking all of the things that you post, all of your activity. So let's say you liked something, they'll be able to see that. Let's say you posted something, they'll be able to see that. When it comes to Atlas Copco, worldwide, we have over 600,000 followers. But when you break that down into the United States and Canada, we have roughly 37,500 followers in the US and over 7,700 in Canada for followers. So these are the people who, when we're posting organically or if people are engaging with our content, or we're engaging with other companies' content or other people's content, which oftentimes, if you've noticed, you've been a new hire with the company, Atlas Copco will comment on that and say, welcome to the team. Or if you're a partner of ours or you work with a partner of ours and tag them in, we may be commenting on our partners' material as well, which is a great way to elevate our business partners and a great way to elevate us as well.
Oops, here we go. Sorry about that.
All good. So as we continue to kind of grow, we look at why, right? Why is it important? Why is it important that we share our stories? Why is it important that we share things about the company, about our experiences in the company, and about our products? Now, when you look at LinkedIn, LinkedIn is actually a really trusted source. And most of the time, when you look at consumers just in general, right, from a consumer standpoint, roughly 57% of all business decisions or all purchase decisions are made digitally before they reach out to a person, right? That means they're interacting with our brand, they're interacting with peers within their network to try and figure out which company they should either, one, purchase from, or two, work for when it comes to other people and other activities that they see out there. So LinkedIn is actually one of the most trusted networks, with roughly 70% of those people out there, roughly 70% of consumers saying that they trust what they see on LinkedIn. So when we post about the very, very true and very, very awesome things that are happening in our company, like the Learning Fest, we get a lot of people who trust that, and a lot of people who see that and believe in the mission that we have here at Atlas Copco. And with 75% of it saying that they have come across, they have thought leadership that helps determine which vendor to consider. Now, thought leadership, if you're not already familiar with, is basically positioning yourself or positioning a company with being an expert within an industry or within a space. So when I talk about digital marketing, when I talk about digital media, people tend to look at me as an expert in that space because I have put out material, I've put out comments, I've put out technologies or partners that I've worked with, or maybe I have recommendations on my LinkedIn, which we'll see later, that show that I am an expert in that field, or that I have an expertise in certain areas within that field. But let's continue on. So oftentimes I like to talk about the sphere of influence, and I think a lot of you remember the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon thing that kind of went wild, a few years ago. But it really is kind of that same mentality, that same type of mindset that you want to have. Now, when I talk about the sphere of influence, it's not just our peers either, but I want you to think about everything you interact in from the 6 a.m. to the 6 p.m. Right? When you get up in the morning, are you talking to your Alexa and asking what the weather is? Are you listening to your Pandora station as you dance around to get ready for work? When you're on your way to work, are you listening to a local radio station? Are you answering emails and on your phone while you're riding the subway or the tube? Are you interacting with your social media channels, checking in to see if your friends like your Instagram post from the night before? And all throughout that day, we're thinking about that sphere of influence, the type of influences that every single person gets all day, every day. Now, the reason this is important is because as a brand and as employees, we represent our company and we represent the products that we sell. And we also know that people are interacting with that at different times of the day. This also can help build our network. Now, on a personal front, let's say you're looking to learn more about a particular subject matter, you might follow, or you might share, or you might like or comment on posts that are about that particular subject matter. This will help you potentially grow your network and grow how many people you can see that are posting or sharing the content that you're really interested in. So really think about what you're doing and how you're doing it and how many times you're commenting on other people's posts. As I said before, if other people are liking, sharing, or commenting on yours, it means that you're expanding your reach and you're expanding your network and the ability for your network to see the content you're posting. And I think from here, I may be turning it over to Andy, if I'm correct. Let's see, what's the next topic?
Oh, give me
Oh,
Yep.
one more.
one more slide.
Got it. Okay, stats. We like to love, we love stats here. So when it comes to gaining leads, when it comes to creating leads, and this goes to, so like we talked about two different kind of sides, right? There's the personal side, which is about our company culture and about a lot of other things that I think Andy's going to touch on here in a minute. But then we also can talk about lead generation. And that's one of our favorite things to talk about here in PTNA, because we strongly believe that social media can be used as a tool to create a lot of top, middle, and bottom funnel leads. And when I say top, middle, and bottom funnel leads, these are leads that are, one, may not know Atlas Copco at all as a purchase potential, or maybe they know about us but not a lot or not enough to consider that we should be someone they should be purchasing from. And then we have bottom middle, which probably already know us, but we need to prove that we can succeed in a particular category or particular space and convert them over to saying, yes, I do want to buy from Atlas Copco. So when we think about driving leads, we know that LinkedIn is 227% more effective at generating leads and connections than other social networks. And the reason this is typically because you find a lot of the information to be wholly true. A lot of that information, especially in the business to business world, is about companies. It's about their levels in their companies. So you kind of already know the right people to talk to, the right people to go after, and the right people to target when it comes to looking for leads. So we really believe that LinkedIn is a very strong platform when it comes to generating, cultivating, and converting leads for our sales pipeline.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Up next, I'll be talking about how to leverage your digital presence. And by leveraging your digital presence, we mean generating powerful conversations and connections on LinkedIn. So first off, why leverage your digital presence? So back when technology wasn't as advanced as what it is now, we networked with other people in person. I used to go to a lot of networking events. Obviously, COVID had different plans for that, but now is the time to replace in-person networking with digital networking. There are many benefits to networking digitally versus in person. So let's talk about them. Number one is attracting new talents. Using LinkedIn is a great platform to attract new talent into the business, specifically by sharing company culture and sharing more information about Atlas Copco, about the business, and really tune in to people who are looking for jobs and looking for the same company culture that we share here at Atlas Copco. It's also great for expanding your network. Like Kevin mentioned before, around 70% of users trust LinkedIn as a network to, as a social media channel, to expand your network. Also making an industry impact and also a peer impact. We all know that you are experts in what you do. You're experts in your job title. So leveraging your digital presence, you could do that by showing peers how well you know your job and how well you can execute your job. And then you could also attract new people who have the similar mindset as you and expand your network through that. Also, massive opportunities. Like Kevin mentioned before, here at PTNA, we're really big on generating digital leads on LinkedIn. So by sharing social media posts on LinkedIn, you can leverage newer opportunities with newer people and expand your digital network. And also have meaningful conversations with industry experts within different companies. Posting on social media gives you that expansion to hit other people outside of your current network and really drive meaningful conversations with other thought leaders in the industry. And then I talked about this a little bit before with attracting new talent, but posting on social media gives you a chance to share our company culture. The company culture at Atlas Copco is absolutely amazing. So you could use your LinkedIn profile to share that with other users and also share the Never Stop Learning Festival social media posts. Now we talked about the benefits of leveraging your digital presence. Now let's talk about how. So we all know you have something important to say, but the question is how you say it with your posts. So when crafting a social media post, it needs to be meaningful. So think about a certain topic that helps drive impact for the business and also your network. Also consider writing a post that's thought leading. So something that drives those conversations with other individuals within Atlas Copco and within your current network. Also, when creating your posts, think about something striking. What sets you apart from everyone else in your network? And also, you need to be mindful that your post should be relevant. So your audience should relate to and understand your message. All right, that was a quick overview of making meaningful conversations. Now I'm going to kick it back over to Kevin and he'll talk about building authority online.
Great section, Andy. And I loved seeing the post from Beth Jones, one of our own here at PTNA, on the diversity inclusion. I know that Atlas Copco has a big focus on diversity inclusion, and they've launched the new playbooks. If you haven't heard about them or if you haven't seen them, I know that there's going to be some sessions coming up later this week or later in the festival about diversity inclusion. So make sure to check them out. Now, when you're building your authority, right, how do you make someone trust you? How do you become that expert? How do you see if someone else can be your expert or if you can trust them? And I really think this comes down to a little bit of a, like, when you think about a little bit of a challenger model, right? So when you think about an issue or a problem that someone might have, or when you think about a question that might be out there in the universe or the Twitterverse, if you will, how do you take the information or the knowledge that you have, and how do you answer that? And how do you answer it fully, or how do you give them enough information will they're viewing you as that authoritative figure or as that expert within that field? So really it comes down to, one, building up a response to that and making sure you're specializing what you're talking about, right? You don't want, sometimes, it's good to be broad, right? If you're in a social media 101 like we are today, you tend to go broad, you give examples of glossary items and go over terms and information like that. But when you're talking about, let's say, SEO or UX properties on a very specific website, you might want to be very niche on that. You might want to go direct into that type of conversation. And of course, that's, an area that I like talking about or that I get excited about. But for us, it might be, applications for compressors, or it might be, something in the medical field or something with portable compressors when it comes to, some of our other brands. Or it might be, writing the best financial analysis report, when it comes to our financial teams. So really think about who you're talking to and what they care about and what you think will attract them to what you're talking about. The other thing is listening to that audience. So not only do you need to think about, okay, what are some of the questions that they have? What are some of the answers that I could provide them? But why don't you listen to what they're saying? And as I mentioned earlier on this, I kind of said, if there's any questions in the chat, please feel free to send them down. We haven't seen any yet, but if there were, or if you get offline questions, and in particular at Atlas Copco, I think what we like to do here is we go to our dealer networks, we go to our customers, we go to our internal staff, right? When we have new products or we're developing new products or we're talking about different ways that we can discuss the industry's problems, we tend to go to our trusted networks. We tend to go to the people that we know can help give us feedback or will ask us the tough questions to get us to a point where we can comfortably and more accurately describe what's happening or more accurately answer the questions that are happening in the workplace or in the manufacturing process. So make sure you're regularly checking whether it's your messages on your social media account or regularly checking in with your interpersonal group. You know, I always like to say that 30% of your time should be spent working on your interpersonal relationships inside the office. You know, most of those times you can kind of see what those questions are about your job. You know, I mean, maybe look across the aisle and ask, you know, does that person really understand what I do? Do I really understand what they do? And then that can help you develop some content you might be able to create for social media. Now, create content that can also support your network and something that they'd want to share. And I think we'll see a little bit later on what that means when it comes to our profiles and what that means to when it comes to some of our content types. But making sure that we talk about something in particular, like a particular product or a particular application that can tie back to or wrap in some of the larger notions that we're talking about, some of the larger ideas, will definitely help build that authority and create you as that thought leader. And that was just a quick slide. I think we only had one because we want to get into the good stuff. We want to get into the meat of creating the most optimal LinkedIn profile, which Andy's going to take us through.
Oh, yeah. I'm very excited for this part. Also, before we get started, you'll see a lot of our PTNA colleagues here. I use all of them as examples. So PTNA team, thank you. I stalked your LinkedIn profile to get these. All right, optimizing your LinkedIn profile. Some of these topic points may be a simple fix, but this is more to generate awareness for your profile and how you can optimize your profile fully. So number one, that's being a profile picture. Seems a little obvious, but your profile picture is the first impression for your users out there on LinkedIn. Make sure your image is clear, avoid busy backgrounds because you want to come off as someone who is open to conversation, someone can talk to you easily. Number two is a cover photo. So including a cover photo gives you a one-up from the rest of the packs. Usually if I see a profile without a cover photo, it just shows that their profile is not complete. Maybe they're not as active on LinkedIn. So I can't really rely on them for the type of information that I'm looking for. Just be sure that you choose an image that's relevant to your job title or company and just make sure that they are the appropriate sizes. You can see here on my LinkedIn profile, I just have the Atlas Copco blueprint. And then our colleague Leslie Taylor used an awesome photo from one of the trade shows that we were at last year. If you don't use something that is relevant to Atlas Copco, just make sure that your photo is appropriate to other business professionals as well. Editing your headline. So when I'm on LinkedIn, I noticed that most headlines include your job title. But who said that your description had to be your job title? I would personally use this space to say a little bit more about your role and what you do. So I use both Kevin and I as an example. Kevin has his job title on his description, but he also has other keywords that relate back to his job title and also elevate his profile. With mine, I just have a cute little social media 101 equation here. Now let's talk about your summary. So your summary is your story. This is an opportunity for you to tell your story with people who are viewing your profile. Instead of listing your skills, maybe you should describe why those skills matter to your job role. It will make a huge difference with the people who see your profile, and it one-ups you from the rest of the pack. With my profile specifically here, I just talk about how social media is more than posting and liking and how it's telling a story and or through your personal profile. And then same thing with Kevin here. He also tied in his experience as well, but he's telling a story about himself, about his career journey and how he got to the place where he is now. Job descriptions.
And Andy, just going back to that, you know, what I've seen has worked really well when it comes to your headline and your summary or your story is it's not necessarily always about just what you do with your job title or what you do with what you do, kind of like bulleting lists out of what you do. Sometimes, yes, when it comes to keyword optimization on your LinkedIn profile for recruiting searches, for sure. But really want to be able to tell that story. And you also want to show off some of your, like if you were to take your 3 major skills or the 3 things you want someone to take away from looking at your profile within 5 seconds, use that.
I also like to say that your LinkedIn profile is your digital resume. With that being
Definitely.
said, job descriptions. So we recommend adding in small job descriptions about your current and previous roles. This helps users not only understand what you do, but it also helps them seek a representative within the company. So if you have someone who is looking for a job and you are HR, for example, if you have those recruiting topic points on your landing page, you'll most likely get a message from that person or someone who is looking for help within the company. You could either do full sentences, or my personal favorite is just doing short bullet points. You don't need to necessarily write a whole paragraph about your job title. I mean, your job description, excuse me, but just highlight those key responsibilities that you do during your day-to-day. Now jumping to profile URL. I'm not sure many people know this, but you can adjust your LinkedIn URL. Instead of saying LinkedIn user with a bunch of numbers, you're able to customize it so users can find your profile easier. So with mine, I just have my name with a little dash in between my first and last name. Same thing with Kevin as well. And to change your profile URL, if you are on your LinkedIn page, in the top right-hand corner, right below the menu bar, there is a section that says Edit Public Profile and URL. If you click that, you'll be able to customize your URL to whatever you like. I would recommend using your name versus job title, again, just so it's easier for users to find you.
So real quick, as we get into the function and job description part, we did have a question on there, and it was really about how sometimes if we're all on LinkedIn, right, some of our customers might start reaching out to anybody with the job or the company by Atlas Copco, or let's say kind of the example is, let's say there's a product designer who has a profile and there's also a service technician that has a profile, and some of those kind of act as the filter, right? So behind the scenes in the company, our service people or our technical trainers or our customer service members are acting as that kind of barrier to product design or engineering or some of our behind the scenes workers. And how does, when you represent yourself through the company on LinkedIn, how does that kind of mess up, or how does that open up the door for people to reach out you and in some cases bombard you, which of course, as being a particular face of the company at times and being heavily promoted on social media, I get reached out to all the time. And I think, my main answer is there's one, it's really not a fault of the platform that this is happening, right? I think it's a fault of people being unable to access the right people through the right channels, right? So if there are easier ways, or if there are easy ways to get to the right person, whether it's customer service or technical service or service technicians or dealers or whoever it is that they're trying to reach, or maybe it's logistics. I get calls for logistics all the time for some reason. Then if it's easy for them to find in a digital sense on our websites and in our business profiles that might be through various other third-party sites, that will help mitigate some of that, but it doesn't ultimately overstop it. But what I will say is that when people do reach out to you, don't be so offended, because it just means that they're trying to get in contact with your company. They're trying to get in contact with the right person. And the best thing that you can do, and most of the time what I do is I say, hey, well, you know what? I'm not that person. I'm not the right department, but I think I know who is. Why don't I give you their contact information and see if that can further you along the trail? And sure, people might get pinged around 3 or 4 different times, which happens often, right? Especially if you've ever tried to call, company and gotten pinged around yourself. But I did want to just address that question and say that, I think the best thing for us to do is, if you have a contact us hub, or if you have a place where all of those contact informations live somewhere digitally, maybe you could send that to that person or point them to that direction on the website. So I did just want to address that. I'm trying to address a couple of the other questions via the chat. Earlier in my profile, there was someone who had asked about sharing some of the benefits of listing your Myers-Briggs personality tests. So in my profile, I had ENTJ, which is part of a personality test. And I know that some of our HR teams, in particular, I think, they're starting to bring a lot more of these back, but it will help. And I think it is a good thing if you're representing your personality within your digital presence. I think it'll give people more of a sense of who you are and how they can relate to you, or how they can address certain issues with you, or where you might be able to fit. Now, obviously, I think some of those are more on the recruiting side. So when it comes to who we're looking to go after and how our HR teams uses that information to see if they might be a good fit for our company. But what I would also say, and what I've kind of preached here internally, is when we look at other personality types around us, it also gives us insight into how best to work with those people, or how best to approach them with information. So if you do have that information and people are seeing that or sharing that, then you can certainly understand how you might be able to take some of the information that you have or might want to enlighten them with, or work with them on, and how to approach them with that. So that was it. I just wanted to address a couple of those questions, Andy, before I moved on.
It's also a good conversation starter too, in my opinion. All right. Sorry, I have to move my screen. It's blocking the view. Adding your education. So I would say this is probably one of the biggest things to consider when optimizing your LinkedIn profile. Adding your education is vital for job recruiters and prospect clients. And also, it's a great way to interact with alumni from your alma mater, excuse me. So you could add your education, and then you could also add some skills and some courses that you have taken. I'll be addressing that in a couple of slides later on, but it's also important to include your bachelor, master's, or even doctorate degree on there as well. And like I mentioned before, it's also a great way to interact with other members who have attended your school. Showing off your skills. So adding your skills will help other people understand your strengths, and they can match you with the right opportunities. So for example, I have social media on my profile. What other people can do is when they go to your profile, so I'll take Kevin for example. Kevin knows how I work with social media on a day-to-day basis. He can go to my LinkedIn profile and endorse me for social media specifically. What that does, it adds extra leverage to your own resume, because X amount of people have endorsed you for these skills that help you do better at your job. So I would definitely include skills on your own profile, and then share the love too. Go to your colleagues' profiles and endorse their skills. By doing that, you'll just add extra leverage to your job and your profile. All right, spreading the love. So this is similar to including your skills. I just mentioned this a little bit before, but endorsing other members also increases your credibility. Like I mentioned, just go through your connections and identify the ones who deserve an endorsement. And when you endorse someone, they'll most likely endorse you back. And another neat tool for LinkedIn is that you could also request recommendations. So endorsing someone shows the value of your skill, but recommendations is a whole nother level. it takes your credibility a step further because people could essentially write a review about you. It could be an old colleague that you worked with, or it could be your current colleagues, or even someone from your partners. Requesting recommendations just gives you added value and just shows how the extra effort that you put into your job and your career and your partnerships and network.
Yeah, and definitely what I would say about recommendations are, these are good things one, to not only show off your skill set, but to show off that you can work well with peers. As you develop a career and as you move on in your career, having different people from different companies that you've worked with giving you recommendations shows that you continuously improve and you continuously show up as you move forward. And I would also say, don't wait until you've left that company or are trying to find a new job or something like that to go out and get a recommendation. Ask your friend across the aisle or ask one of your peers in your departments and say, hey, do you think I'm doing a good job? Do you think you could give me a recommendation on LinkedIn? And those are the best times to get them and request them. Not only will it show that, but it will further endorse you as that thought leader for Atlas Copco and being an expert in that space, because they will see that whether it's a partner or whether it's someone else in your company who's recommending you, you're doing really well here.
Absolutely. Very well said. All right, just a few more slides on optimizing your LinkedIn profile. Featured content. This is a feature that I don't really see that many people use, but what it is, it gives you a chance to showcase the best samples of your work. You get to share, you can share the work that you're most proud of. You can also do posts that you liked on LinkedIn, or as well as external media. So, for example, if you're out on the job site and you see one of the Atlas Copco products out there, feel free to take a picture and upload that to your featured content. You can post whatever you want as on your featured content. Our only recommendation is just to make sure it's relevant back to your job title. Since LinkedIn is a professional photo, even though I want to see every picture of a dog possible, maybe you should stick that to Facebook and Instagram. So try to make sure that your featured content is focused on your job. Licenses, awards, and certifications. So like I mentioned before, I really consider LinkedIn like an online resume. So with that, I think it's fine to brag a little bit about your awards and certifications. So I would definitely encourage you to take advantage of this section of your profile. You could share your industry certifications, awards, or something that you're really, really proud of accomplishing to show that you're an expert in the industry. All right. Well, that was optimizing your LinkedIn profile. Now we're going to cover common mistakes to avoid. So we'll break down some of the mistakes that I've personally seen on LinkedIn and letting you all know about them so you don't have to make them yourselves. All right, so I just want to start by saying that mistakes happen, even digitally. So if you have made these mistakes before, it's okay. Now you know that you could correct them later on. So mistake number one, sharing only your own content. I would recommend to not shy away from sharing related content from the industry. So sharing content from an outside source gives you an extra boost and it identifies yourself as being a thought leader. So for example, you could share posts from industry publications, or you could share posts from Atlas Copco. We would recommend starting to share those to help boost your credibility online. And mistake number 1B, while you're sharing those posts, make sure that you always leave an original comment. So it's really good to share an article or an Atlas Copco social post, like I just mentioned, but before pressing the reshare button, what we want you to do is think of an original comment so you can add value to the post that you're already sharing, and you get to give your own thought. Number 2, oversharing or undersharing. So I've seen a lot of posts where people just write paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs about the certain topic. While I think that's okay on occasion, we really want you to be mindful and think of what is the most important facts that it will be useful to my audience. And circling back to before, just remember that your message needs to be meaningful, thought leading, striking, and relevant. So be sure to think of the 2 or 3 topic points within your post and share that. Mistake number 3, I hate to call out Corbett for this, but I'm sorry, Corbett, not proofreading. Typos happen, but just make sure you double check before you share. And then mistake number 4 is not using hashtags. So without hashtags, your post won't go anywhere. And it is important to know that LinkedIn recommends only 3 hashtags per post. That is because if you spam your post with like 10 hashtags, for example, LinkedIn would think that your post isn't original. They would think it's spam. So LinkedIn recommends only using up to 3 hashtags to make sure the LinkedIn algorithm doesn't read your post as spam. Because when LinkedIn reads your post as spam, you're not really going to get any views on your post.
Yeah, it's definitely a great one to call out, and I think you'll see one here in a minute where I've definitely used too many. But this is a good note for a lot of people who are doing social media management or using social media management tools. If you're looking to post on multiple platforms, obviously Instagram is a very hashtag heavy platform where LinkedIn is not. And when it comes to the typos, I've definitely caught myself. Luckily, LinkedIn does let you go back and edit those posts at least once, maybe twice, depending on the time frame. So make sure after you've posted, even if you've proofread it, you might be on the run, you might be, going from one customer visit to another customer visit, or maybe at a trade show and everything's going on crazy. Make sure you reread your post later that day to see if you can catch them, because I've definitely caught myself with that same mistake.
Mm-hmm. I'm guilty of it too. It's not that big of a deal, but just make sure you proofread before you go ahead and press the post button. And to jump in on that comment, Kevin, you can edit your post more than one time as well. So if you make an edit and then see something else that you want to change, you'll be able to go back and edit that again as well. All right, mistake number 5, just selling. So this is more catered to some of the salespeople or HR, but you'll be eager to post your message that sells a lot about our products or even about our company. So instead of just selling, you should consider taking these 3 steps to elevate your post. So what you would want to do is educate your users. So what information can you provide that people will help them? You could also inspire them. So what stories can you share, that will motivate your audience, as well as entertaining. So adding value. You could add like a quick joke or 2 in there as long as it's appropriate and relates back to the message that you are saying. All right, well, that's it for our top 5 common mistakes to avoid. Now I'm going to kick it over to Kevin to share some tips on sharing your learnings from Never Stop Learning Festival.
Yeah, definitely. So, as we go throughout this week, we're going to have a ton of opportunities. The North American Council team, as well as the global teams, have set up a ton of opportunities, a lot of different areas. We're also focusing on North America, our GRIT, which has, it's its own acronym. So I encourage you to check out the social media anatomy flyer to figure out, what each one of those is. And Ken sent out plenty of communications letting us know what each one is. Try to include that, try to include a little bit of story, or maybe tie into one of those pieces of grit, or one of those things, whether it's the growth mindset, Maybe it's the inclusion portion of it. You know, I know we've got a lot of internship programs that are starting this summer as well. So maybe you pull your intern team or your own intern into a learning experience, and that's part of your inclusion into the Learning Week. But make sure you highlight what you're doing, and make sure we tag in Atlas Copco, whether it's with the @ symbol, which tags in our actual handle on LinkedIn, or with a hashtag. We also have the hashtag Never Stop Learning hashtag, and our hashtag Never Stop Learning Fest hashtag that will really gravitate. And actually last year, we saw multiple other countries and multiple other companies include this hashtag, thinking that it was some sort of national, international event. Little did they know that it was an event that we had created internally at Atlas Copco. So make sure you share, make sure you tag in either a photo or a video. Really helps elevate that story and tell a little bit, like Andy mentioned, give a short, concise little story about it. And then don't forget to tag us, and don't forget to tag your peers as well, because as you know, tagging your peers will help grow your network. But we really appreciate you joining us today. Andy did a great job, and really appreciate Ken for inviting us to present. If there's any more questions, so as far as I did see one question about obtaining the PowerPoint. So we will have the PowerPoint, or the PDF version of the PowerPoint, posted on the SharePoint. And I'm just waiting for confirmation whether I can share that out as well. So make sure you get out there and start sharing. And then Rebecca mentioned that Social Selling Index is also a great way to measure your LinkedIn presence. So take a look at the link that Rebecca had shared in the chat.
Thanks, Rebecca.
And anything else from you, Andy or Ken?
You know, on behalf of North America Learning and Development, Kevin and Andy, thank you so much for your presentation today. Thank you so much for participating in the festival. I think this was a great addition to this year's festival, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the posts that everybody's going to make as a result of participating in the session today. Also, just a bit of good news. At the highest number I saw, we had 215 people on the call today. So kudos to you, Kevin and Andy, for having a great turnout, a great presentation. I see all the applauses on the screen as well.
Oh, I can't see it because I'm sharing. So thanks, everyone.
Here, you ready? Hold on real quick. For everyone out there, Andy, go back to the very first PowerPoint slide. Go back to our opening screen.
Here, wait, there's an easier way to do this.
All right, so if you want, and this is what I like to do all the time. So I'm going to turn around. I'm going to do a quick selfie with my computer, and I'm going to post this exact photo of me sitting at my computer presenting it to everyone here for Learning Week. So I encourage you guys to either use this image or do your own selfie on your own laptops and get out there and start posting.
Also remember 3 hashtags per post. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thank you again, Kevin and Andy. Thank you, everyone, for participating, and have a great rest of the day. And remember, at 12 Eastern tomorrow, we've got our next roundtable on growth mindset. So have a great rest of the day, everyone, and thank you for your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was great, Kevin and Andy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm actually doing a triple header today. So I had the round table at 12, I had this at 1, and now I've got to actually conduct a class for the next hour. So.
Well, great job, Ken, and good luck.
Yeah, thanks. Hopefully get a lot of posts out of this.